Hi everyone, welcome. A little bit unplanned, a little bit of a surprise, but we still have to have a money date. I actually honestly completely lost track of time, but maybe that's what happens when you're having fun as a new mom. And so I just finally realized that today is Thursday. Anyhow, it is almost doesn't quite matter what day of the week it is, as long as you give yourself an opportunity to pause and check in with yourself, right? So that's where the money date comes in. And today I want to talk to you about mapping out expenses for the rest of the year. So, hi Tatiana, good to have you. So what I am thinking here is not what I ask you to do every week. What I asked you to do every week are the three things. I ask you to look at your expenses for the week. I ask you to figure out how much money you've made. And I also ask you to stay on track with your savings goals. Now, that is something that you do on a weekly basis. Today's discussion is about larger kind of purchases, right? Because let's face it, it's gonna come up, and I am more interested in being prepared than being surprised, right? And not staying in line with the plan that I've created for myself. So I don't have a background music, but hopefully you can hear in the background, and I'll show you in a minute, Liam is taking a nap and snoring a little bit, and he's a little cute snore, so I don't need any music at the moment, but I am on a crunch time because he can wake up any minute and the show will be over. So if you stay till the end, I'll show you what he looks like when he's sleeping. He's a real cute baby, and I'm enjoying him very much. So let's talk about, there's three things that I think are worth mentioning when we're thinking about big expenses, okay? So number one, we need to plan ahead, right? So when you look at the calendar, and today's the last day of January, so we've got 11 months to go. This is kind of crazy, but time flies so fast. So for the rest of the year, we have 11 months to go. What are you planning to do? Okay, that's the question you need to ask yourself is, what are you planning to do for the rest of the year? Are you going to go on vacation? Are you going to buy a car? Are you going to buy a house? All kinds of things. I just wrote it down. New furniture, new appliances. You have a new baby on board, and what kind of things are you planning and anticipating? Birthday celebrations, new baby celebrations, travel, and so forth. Maybe you're going to be attending a wedding or weddings this year. So what are those big ticket items? Because let's face it, they're not necessarily part of your overall spend, right? On the weekly or on the monthly basis. So make yourself a list of when it's going to happen and what are you planning to do, okay? And the last piece is how much you anticipate to spend on these particular expenditures, okay? So you have, the first step, you have a little map of what you're going to do. Now, step number two is to create a timeline of how exactly you're going to be financing these expenditures. Now, I know a lot of you, reach into your wallet and pull a credit card, right? And that's fine as long as you have, right, savings set aside to fund that credit card expenditure. And that's fine. I'm a big fan of using credit cards, but I'm also a big fan of paying off credit cards at the end of the month, right? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense to finance a vacation on a credit card, right, that charges you 14% interest per year. That just doesn't make any sense. So what is your timeline? When are you going to do it? And how are you going to actually pay for it? Now, I don't want you to get sad or depressed if you think that, oh my gosh, looking at this plan that I've just laid out for myself, all of the things you want to do, the money that it needs isn't gonna work. And that's fine, right? Do not get discouraged. I'd rather you plan ahead and know what's coming up as opposed to you sort of being surprised and working it backwards. And so the step number three, actually getting to work. And so what I mean by that is you figure out how, based on the list of items that you're trying to accomplish and how much money you're going to need, getting to work means do your numbers. How are you going to fund that vacation? Let's use a vacation as an example, because I think most of you can relate to that. So if your vacation is going to be taking place in July or August, you have 5 or 6 months to go. Hopefully you've already made plans, right, on where are you going and how much it's going to cost you. But then how much do you already have set aside, or have you prepaid? Have you bought your plane tickets? Have you bought your, wherever you're going? Maybe you're going to a resort. Have you bought the hotel, and all of that. So figure out what you currently have and what do you still have to do. Now, the other part of getting to work means if you don't have enough resources right now, it doesn't mean that you won't have those resources in 6 months. And that's the point of today's discussion. Hi, Dixie. Good to have you here. So you've got to think ahead. Now, today, everybody has an opportunity to create extra income, extra cash for themselves. So if you know that it's coming down the pipeline, right? You know that in 6 months you're working towards a goal. What are you going to do? How are you going to generate money? Maybe perhaps it's not having a side hustle, but perhaps creating some kind of investment that gives you enough cash flow in return in a short period of time so you can fund these expenditures. So do your numbers. Now, what I also like to suggest are these next two things. Number one, if you want to have, and I'm a big fan of buckets. I've talked about this before numerous times. And what I mean by buckets are having separate accounts, whether it's a checking account or a savings account or a CD or a money market, but designate these accounts or these buckets for your specific goals. Number one reason I like it that way in that structure, and don't think that I have millions of them. Hi, Sabina, good to have you. But I do have a few, and a few kind of a very specific for, funding, for example, making sure we have enough money to pay taxes when it comes up, making sure that we have an emergency reserves, and then kind of a fund bucket. So create yourself a structure where you have and can check, right? And kind of keep an eye on that account where you, aggregating and saving to achieve your goals. Okay, so that's number one. Have that separate. You know how fun it is when you're working towards something big, right? And it's coming up in 6 months. 6 months is enough time to sort of see it out there. But as you go and check off the next month and the next month and the next month, and when I'm asking you to give yourself a checkpoint every week and say, am I staying current with my goals? You know how much fun it is to look at that account and say, all right, I am this much closer, right, to my goal. So think about that. And then the second part here, I kind of touched on it already, but you know how much I love the idea of making sure you have enough money in the emergency reserves. That is kind of the first step in making sure that your financial foundation, right, is solid, because things come up, right? People get sick, lose jobs, big expenditures come up, right? I'm talking about here today, planning out these expenses. Hi, Alex. Good to have you here. Hi, how's Hawaii? Oh my goodness. It's not a bad weather here in California, but Hawaii. Anytime, I'm on the plane and ready to go. So think about making sure that you have your baseline. Now, what I also want to point out to you is that don't think that you have to do one thing at a time, right? Just because you're focusing on saving for that big vacation or a wedding that you're attending or whatever it is, right, this year that you have on your calendar, that does not mean that you're not going to be working towards your other goals. And emergency reserves or curveball account, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. That's what I want to see for you to stash up. Okay, high yield online savings accounts are great places to start. Interest rates have been better to us, right, over the last 6 months. So we're looking at kind of a low 2% or so in savings accounts, but that's great. That's a lot more than we had a year ago. So those are the 3 steps. Plan ahead, create your timeline, right? Write everything down, make a list, and then get to work. I know that you guys are capable of creating a very successful 2019, and I want you to think about the big ticketed items and expenditures that you're going to do. Let me know in the comments, what are you thinking about for this year? What kind of interesting things are you doing? Maybe vacation is too benign and too kind of an ordinary thing, and it's not as exciting. But perhaps there's something else. I'm actually thinking about this this conference I want to attend. So that is something that is not planned, has not been planned, but it's way into towards the end of the year. So perhaps I'm going to have more availability. Liam will be older and I can go. And so therefore I need to follow my own steps, right? And working towards having enough resources to spend on that particular goal. Now, if you've wrapped this up for today, it's kind of like having specific goals and targets and working your way up. So whether you call these expenses or goals or targets, it's exactly the same way. Let me know if you have any questions, and drop an emoji, drop a comment in the chat. I would love to know that you visited. Now, I want to point out to you something, and as I mentioned earlier, my days and my nights and my weeks are kind of all blended at the moment. This is not a complaint, but more of a money win that I shared with you today. But what helps to stay current, right, and what helps for me to focus, and even though I started to work a couple hours a day, just because I wanted to have a structure, is actually, and I talk about this, not just my daily gratitudes, but writing my goals and my targets every day. Because as crazy as it can get, that help kind of keeps me in line. And so I wanted to share a quote with you, and this is by Christopher Rice. And it says, "Every day is a bank account, and time is our currency. No one is rich, no one is poor, and we all have 24 hours. And I want you to think about, what are you doing with the 24 hours that you get, and how are you allocating your time? For me, over the last Liam is going to be 1 month old on Sunday, the time concept has become, it's kind of showing me a whole other side of what it really means. So I want you to think about that, not just in terms of what you actually are doing and accomplishing, but how wisely you're using time and your finances to give you the freedom that you want. I think Liam is ready to say hello. Thanks everybody for watching. Maybe perhaps Money Date could be on Thursdays. I don't know. But as long as I can chat with you. Hi Alexia, good to have you. As long as I can chat with you once a week and give you a couple of tips and suggestions to remind you to stay on track with your finances, I think we can call that a successful week. So here's Liam. Hi, buddy. Oh, he's covering up his his face. Well, that's all you get today. Oh, he had a great photo shoot this morning. Oh my goodness, this baby is awesome. He complied with everything we wanted him to do. So he's been fed more than he actually supposed to have, but that helps. And then so he's sleeping his way out. Oh, let's everybody see your face. Here's a cute face. Here's my cute face. Hi everybody. Thanks for watching, you guys. I appreciate you hopping on. Let me know if you have any questions. And so go create a timeline for yourself. Go create a timeline to achieve those big things that you want. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.